Okay. If you go on down to where it says procedure in your lab, it will say from the computer in your lab room, open the virtual astronomy laboratory. And then select Unit 17, spectroscopic parallax. So I'm going to do that for you. So I'll go over here and I'm going to click on 17. And then pull it back on there. And part 1 says measuring a star's relative magnitude. So it says to click on spectroscopic parallax. So I'm going to click over here where it says spectroscopic parallax. And it says shown are some stars. To the right of the field of view is a photometer. By positioning the cursor directly over a star, the photometer will read its relative magnitude, or its relative brightness. So this is our photometer, and then if I put the cursor on that star there, okay, now can you read what the number says? So it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if 5 is here and 6 is here, where does the blue box go to? All right, now I'd like for you to go down in your lab. So scroll on down on your lab now to that chart, and it's going to say star number 1, estimate from the lab, measured relative magnitude using photometer. And that was, again, this star over here. Okay, now we can go back to the lab, and now we're going to go down to part 2. It says part 2, measuring a star's maximum wavelength. It says to click on the star in order to view that star's black body spectrum. So this is the star that I picked for you. Now I'm going to click on it, and there's its black body spectrum. Now, unfortunately, you can't, that picture is so large that you can't read what's underneath it. So if I pull it down so that you can see the wavelength is down here, now you can't see the top of it, which is very annoying. So what I'm going to have to do is go back up to here. All right, now I'm going to take a piece of paper, and so can you see there's the top of the curve up there, and it comes down to right about there where my thumb is at. So my thumb is right about there, and now what I'm going to do is I can pull it down, and can you now read the wavelength? So I will help you. It's my thumb is right about there, and it goes 100, 200, 300, 400. So my thumb was about midway between the 300 and the 400. Can you guess what the wavelength is? Now that's going to be in nanometers. And then, so if you go back to the lab, and then go back down to that chart, you can now fill in the next yellow box that says measured maximum wavelength in nanometers using the black body spectrum. So now you should have 2 of those yellow boxes filled in. Okay, now we're going to go back up into the lab. And it says, okay, part 3, calculating a star's surface temperature. Obtain the surface temperature T of the star using Wien's law. So remember, we're not going to use the 0.0029 divided by T, because that would be for meters. So what we need to do is to use equation 16.1. So go back up into the concept introduction, find equation 16.1, plug the wavelength that you have just found into that formula, and solve it for the temperature T. So this is going to require using your calculator and using your EE button on your calculator to do that. Okay, you're going to take that number once you get it, and you're going to put that in the third yellow box in your chart. So calculated temperature in Kelvin using Wien's law. So now we are ready. Now you can pause me at any time, but we're now ready to do part 4 of the lab. It says determining a star's absolute magnitude. Okay, now it says to click on the help menu. Okay, so there, I just clicked on the help menu, and then it says show HR diagram for these stars. Now, if you look carefully, one of those stars is flashing. You may not be able to see it, but the one that we have chosen is the one that is flashing. So what I need for you to do, here's your star right here, and I'm going to take a piece of paper and I will make a horizontal line over to the side so that that one is flashing right about there where my thumb is at. Okay, so that this is an absolute magnitude of 1, 2, and then 3 is where my finger is pointing. And then that piece of paper again went over to right just below that tick mark right there. So you've got 1, 2 is the tick mark, and then my thumb was right about there, and then 3 is right about there. So you estimate what the number is. And then that is going to be the absolute magnitude. So that's going to be kind of equivalent to the luminosity of that star. All right, and then you're going to record that in your data table. So going down to your blue and yellow data table, that is going to go in the 4th box, the one that says measured absolute magnitude using the HR diagram from the help menu. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here, and then when we come back we're going to continue with the lab.